Hi, welcome to Yoga Below the Belt, where every posture is cued with the health of your pelvic floor in mind. I'm Tracy, and today's class will be focused entirely on kneeling postures and working toward helping you stretch your pelvic floor. Gear that you might need would be a thin blanket or a thin pillow just to kneel on, take some pressure off, and 2 yoga blocks if you have them. Pause the video if you need to, grab your gear, and let's get started. Now, before we jump right into the kneeling postures, I want to take a moment to do some grounding, just to make sure that you can focus your attention and just center all of your attention on yourself. Now, I invite you to come to a comfortable seat. Kneeling's okay, or sit crisscross applesauce, whatever works for you. As you rest your hands on your legs, bring your shoulders up and back and down so that you're sitting nice and tall. And close your eyes as you deepen your breathing. Take a moment to recognize how you feel. Do a quick check-in with the body. Maybe set an intention or think of a goal on what you want to accomplish with your class today. And keep that in the back of your mind as you limit the distractions in the room and focus on the sound of your breath. As you inhale, the chest should rise, the ribs should expand, and the belly should fill with air. The next breath, let's focus on raising the chest. On the next breath, focus on raising the chest and expanding the rib cage. And on this third deep breath, breathe even deeper and feel the belly expand outward and press air all the way down to the pelvic floor. And we'll stay here 2 more deep breaths. One more big inhale. And long exhale. And now that you feel a little more grounded, a little more focused, I invite you to open your eyes as we start our practice today. And the first posture will be cat-cow. So I invite you to grab your pillow or your blanket and lay it across the short side of your mat so that you have something to kneel on. Cat-cow is one, as a pelvic floor prolapse sufferer, I have not enjoyed for many years, but the more I practice it, the more I realize it's pretty important to my yoga practice every day. So I invite you to give it a try, and if it's uncomfortable, you can always stop, as with any posture. But if you're going to give it a try, let's come together with the knees hip distance apart and feet hip distance apart as well. The shoulders should be directly above your hands. And yes, I am double jointed. Your arms most likely will look different. Just make sure, however your elbows look in this posture, that you're not locking them or overextending, because that'll hurt your joints. Okay, my shoulders are nice and relaxed, and my body's nice and straight. The knee is directly below the hip. So this is 90 degrees with the knee and 90 degrees with the hip and the torso. So this is table. To come into cow, the tailbone pulls toward the back of your head and you look up. And when you do this posture, you want to be really careful that you're not ramming your booty up and sticking your rib cage down. That's not what you want to do. So in this posture, you're really accentuating the movement just of the hips and that tailbone. So this would be the inhale. We come back into table with the exhale, and keeping the hips above the knees, rotate and roll the back into cat. And then we come back into table. We're going to do 6 full sets together. And again, if it's uncomfortable, just sit it out, no problem. Before we start, check in with the body. Make sure the hips are above the knees, the shoulders are above the base of your arms. And by the base of your arms, I mean your wrists. Apparently it's been a long day for me today. And we will inhale into cow, looking up. And exhale into cat, nice relaxed neck. Hips stay above the knees. And we will come back with an inhale. And exhale. And we have 4 more sets at your own pace with your own breath. Really focus on keeping those hip points above the knees. And this can be as big or as small a motion as you need. Let's do one more together. Inhaling into cow. Tailbone comes toward the back of the head. And exhale into cat. And inhale straight back into table. Next up will be tail wag, which I know you won't find in a lot of your normal studio classes, but this is really good for stretching pelvic floor. So, just as we were before, the hips and knees are in line, hands are where they were, and I want you to rotate that left hip toward the left side as you look over the left shoulder. So we're forming a U to the left. Come back to center, and then we'll look to the right, and the hip moves toward the right. And this entire time, we're making sure the back stays nice and natural with the spine, so flat back. And you can even pull that tailbone back slightly, so it's coming toward the back of your head. Let's come to center. We'll do 4 more full sets, so left and right, and tie the movement to the breath. So we can start now. Inhaling, looking left, twisting the hips to the left. Exhale back to center. Inhale toward the right. Exhale toward the center. And now we'll go again. Left, center, to the right, nice straight back, and center. Now you have 2 more complete sets with your own pace. And don't rush. And as you finish up, you can stay in table for a moment. If you need to shake out your arms, you can come back and sit on your heels. Shake it out. Sometimes it's a little intense, especially if it's the beginning of your day. And now I invite you to grab 2 blocks as we transition into hula hoop. So in this posture, I'll invite you to keep the right knee back, keeping your right knee where it was before on your towel or your blanket, and we'll extend the left leg forward. Now in this posture, you want the knee, on the left leg, to be above your left ankle. And the feet are going to be hip distance apart. I know you'll be tired of hearing me saying that in these classes, but super important for pelvic floor. Reduce the pressure. And with hula hoop, we're going to rotate to the right into a nice circle, coming back and moving the hip to the side. And these circles can be as big or as small as you need them to be. And if this is too much for your knee, you can try a larger pillow, or you could skip it completely. Don't do anything that's going to hurt your body. And let's do some large circles. Nice movement of the hip. And now keep the circles nice and small. You can barely even see it. And now we'll switch directions. So I'm coming forward and rotating that left hip out to the side. Neck is relaxed, shoulders are relaxed. Don't lock your arms. Now let's do a few large circles together. And now we'll shorten those circles so they're nice and tiny. You can barely see those hips moving. Great. And before we switch sides, I'd invite you to extend that left foot forward a little further so that you can come into a lunge. So what I'm doing is I'm extending this right hip flexor without creating too much pressure in the knee. And if you need, you can actually engage your right butt cheek to help stretch the pelvic floor even further. And let's stay here for 3 more breaths. One more inhale. And on an exhale, we'll bring that left leg back. The knee to the left leg should be on your pillow or your blanket. And we'll extend the right leg 90 degrees. And we'll go back to doing our hula hoop. So let's start by having the knee above the ankle with that right leg. And we're going to rotate to the right with that hip and start our circles. And you may notice this side could be easier or harder than the other. That's normal. Our bodies are not always the same on each side. Okay, so now let's make some larger circles, if that feels good to you today. And now we will shorten them so you can barely see it moving, but you can really feel it in the pelvic floor. I love these. Great, and now we'll switch directions. So the motion is moving toward the out hip to the right, inner hip to the left. Just getting that hip nice and warm. Now let's join in together and make larger circles with that right hip. And remember that tailbone's constantly pulling toward the back of the head. And now let's shorten up those circles nice and tiny. And we'll stop and switch directions. So now the hip's coming forward to the left and then back. Nice circles, nice and easy. And now we'll have larger circles with that hip. And shorten it up, nice and small. You can barely see the motion. Nice straight back. And after you finish the next little circle, we'll hold in place and bring that right knee back onto the mat. Rotate the hips a little if you need. Release some of the pressure that may have built. Oh, and I forgot our lunge. So let's keep that right foot forward even further than it was before. So the knee is above that left ankle, and you're really focusing on stretching and extending this hip flexor muscle on the left. And let's stay here for 3 more breaths. Engage that left butt cheek if you want more. One more inhale, and on an exhale, release. Shake out your hands if you need to, and we will transition into downward facing dog. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do down dog, and I confess, after being diagnosed with pelvic prolapse, it was really hard for me to do these, but now they're regulars in my exercise and I love them. If you need some more support, you always have the option of putting blocks against a wall, and then this gives you some pressure so you can push against the wall without sliding. So here would be your first option for your arms, and your second option, of course, would be just to come flat on the floor. So now to get into this, so I don't bonk my head, I'm going to scoot back a little further. To get into this, you want to make sure that your toes are on the ground, feet are hip distance apart, and you're going to press into the arms as you raise your booty up in the air. So with pelvic floor, if you go to pelvic floor concerns, if you go to one of the big classes and they say, oh, you have to work on straightening your legs. Well, look what happens to my low back when I do that. Do you see how rounded it is? That's not what you want if you're dealing with pelvic floor problems. So I would invite you to bend your knees as generously as you need to so that you can work on bringing your tailbone out, coming back toward the back of the head. This always makes me out of breath. Okay, let's come into this together. Choose what option is going to work for you. And don't worry, this does get easier. So for me today, I need a little more rise in the chest, so I'm going to use the blocks. Let's inhale together and exhale into your version of downward dog. So the back is nice and straight, knees are bent, and your tailbone is constantly pulling back toward the back of your head. And we'll be here for 6 breaths. One more inhale. And the exhale will slowly, very gently release those knees to the floor. And we'll transition into child's pose. In child's pose, again, there are lots of options. My first invitation to you would be to spread the knees out a little bit and come between the legs. Arms extended, you can even use blocks. And you can rest your head on the floor so it's relaxed and keep the arms active. If this is too much for your hips, you can grab a blanket or a towel and set it on your ankles to help give some more support and come forward that way. You can also grab a block if that's available to you, although if you do it this way, the knees need to be together, and then extend the body out. Whatever option you choose, the tailbone should constantly be pulling toward the back of the head. I know, there's a theme, tailbone and heads. and then you want the shoulders and neck to be relaxed. So active arms, tailbone constantly pulling toward the back of the head, and a straight spine. Let's inhale together and exhale into whatever version of child's pose is most comfortable for you today. And we'll be here for 6 nice deep breaths. And don't forget your tailbone. One more deep inhale. Really fill that belly with air. And on the exhale, use your hands to push yourself into a seated position. We are finished with our postures today, so you have the option of sitting on a towel for your final relaxation, or a blanket, or you can come laying flat on Shavasana. A traditional yogi would probably prefer that. Find however you can relax the best. Relax the shoulders, relax the muscles in your booty, relax the legs. And I invite you to close your eyes and bring your attention once more to your breath. Check in with the body. How's your pelvic floor? Hopefully nice and relaxed, the same as your hips and your legs. If you struggled with any of the postures today, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing. It's yoga practice, not yoga perfect. And just stepping on the yoga mat, turning on this video, and going for it, you're doing something amazing for the body. Let's sit here in silence for 3 more deep breaths. When you're ready, I invite you to bring your palms together, heart center. Recognize the great things you did for your body today as you open your eyes and get ready to start the rest of your day, or maybe the rest of your night, who knows. Thank you for joining me today and for welcoming me in on your journey to improving your pelvic floor. I really hope to see you again tomorrow. Come again. Namaste.